Hello, all. This is Megan Mesher-Cox. Thanks for joining Jay and I today. My apologies because even though you may be able to hear me right now, I know my video will not be on today. But Jay will be leading us in simple weight loss strategies today. So this is an hour long where Jay will go through her presentation, and of course at the end there'll be time for questions, and we'll make sure to wrap up right before 1 p.m. So be appropriate with timing. And please know that this is 1 hour is an intro. So Jay actually has a series, which is fantastic. It's a series of 4. And if you're interested in more information from today, then I would definitely recommend looking into purchasing that series. So Jay, I'll hand it right over to you. So simple weight loss strategies. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Megan Mesher-Cox. Welcome, everyone. So wonderful to see all your names here. So today we are going to do an intro to simple weight loss strategies, as Dr. Cox mentioned. One thing I will point out is I'm going to do my best to keep it to about 40-45 minutes so that we have plenty of time for Q&A. If you have a question or a comment, just pop that into the Q&A or chat button, and we will get to that at the end. And let's go ahead and get started. So simple weight loss strategies is what we're talking about today. And I'm hoping to give you enough to, give you some ideas, maybe think about things a little bit differently. But of course, this is a much larger issue. If it wasn't, then, approximately 70% of us in this country would not be overweight or obese. And so we're going to talk about some ways that are both simple and easy to apply. We're also going to just briefly talk a little bit about some of the more complex issues around it, but these simple strategies you should be able to apply today if you would like to. So as my tagline, I say weight is just one of the many biomarkers of health. So why, on a presentation about weight, do I automatically diminish the subject? Weight is important. It is really important. It is a critical piece of good health, but we are so conscious of weight and so conscious of body image, especially in the United States and Canada, that it has become, for many people, mentally and even physically damaging. So it's important to keep this in perspective. This is about health. This is about health. And the more that we move toward health, the more that we should move toward a healthy weight. Now, some of us need to pay just a little bit more attention than others, based on our physiology, based on our histories, based on our underlying conditions. But as a general rule, if you are eating healthfully, the way that our bodies were designed to be nourished, then the excess weight should fall off. So let's go ahead and get into some of these details. These are all Olympic athletes. Aren't they amazing? Look at all the different weights they are. You can be very, very fit, even if you do not fit, even if that number on the scale is not exactly what you would like it to be. So this is really so important to be customized to each individual. Each individual needs a program that is customized to them. We are all starting from different places. We all have different body types. We're all different heights and different widths and different shapes. We need to apply this specifically to ourselves and stop comparing ourselves to everyone else. That is the key. Comparison is the thief of joy. So let me just tell you just a quick story about me. I was a lifetime dieter. Anybody who can relate to that, you and I are 25 years, almost a quarter century of dieting. From the time I was 11 years old, lost hundreds of pounds and gained them all back plus more, except this last time. I always thought I was doing the right thing because I was listening to the latest information about nutrition. Why am I doing the air quotes? Because there's a lot of crazy information out there. There's a lot of noise, there's a lot of opinion, and there's a lot of bias. And that is really a lot of the problem. That is really a lot of what is keeping so many of us stuck. What did all of that, following the latest get me? My highest weight ever and stroke level blood pressure. That was when I thought I was doing everything right. I loved my veggies. I was eating my grains whole already. I had stopped drinking soda a couple of years early. I'd stopped eating fast food a year and a half before, except Wendy's. I like their baked potatoes. So this is my before. Just have a look here. I'm going to flip back and forth between these really quickly here. Have a look at this woman. She is gray with really hot cheeks. Now, I'm Irish, so my cheeks are going to be rosy, probably more than most, but that is an angry red there. And look at her eyes. She is exhausted. She is in pain. She doesn't even realize how much pain she's in. You would be surprised what we can get used to. Now, here is my during, because there is no after. This is a lifelong process. We want to continue to get better, continue to feel better, continue to do better so that we can live our most vital lives. We want to enjoy the rest of our lives, not just survive them, right? So this is my during. Look at the difference. Look at the difference in her eyes. Look at the difference in her smile. People think, oh, I don't want to eat healthy. It's boring. It's hard. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Look at the smile on her face as compared to this one. Tell me which of these two people is happier, more joyful, more at peace. The one who has put in the work, put in the effort to put her health first so that she can really enjoy the rest of her life. So some of the things I experienced, basically, let me just give you the quick version. Went to the doctor, stroke level blood pressure. Oh my gosh, why did that happen? I thought I was doing everything right. So I decided to toss away, everything that everyone else was saying about weight loss. It's really just the noise and confusion out there is really just overwhelming and completely non-productive. So what I did was I tossed it all out the window and I went directly to the science for myself. I was sick and tired of listening to everyone's opinion about what I should be doing. And so what I did was I went directly to the science and I was shocked. It is clear. It's clear. Of course, there is some contrary opinions in the science as well. There's bias in science too. But the scientific consensus about the way that we should be nourishing our bodies and the long-term studies with thousands of people over decades show quite clearly the best way to feed us. So what did I discover when I applied this immediately? I wanted to continue to be here, right? So I did it right away. Usually I recommend you do this step by step, but me, it was an overnight thing. Within a few days, I knew this was completely different than anything I had done before. Within a few months, I was off of my medication from stroke level blood pressure to a healthy range and off of my medication that I was told that I would be on the rest of my life within a few months. Also, GI issues that I had no idea were something that I could even heal were gone within a few weeks. I had suffered my entire life, since I was a baby, and terribly suffered. I couldn't go certain places. I was constantly embarrassed by, what my stomach was doing to me. Those were gone within a few weeks. If nothing else, that little bit alone would have been enough to keep me going because that was a huge quality of life bump. Not to mention losing about half a person, not to mention hormones evening out, not to mention clearing up of skin, not to mention joyful, peaceful coexistence with my body. Sometimes we feel like we're battling against our body. I know I'm not alone in that. So here is the first bit. Where are you getting your nutrition information? Now, you just heard me tell my story. So there is so much misinformation out there, and weight loss is really one of the worst because there are plenty of ways for you to lose weight, be successful at losing weight, depending on how you define success, by doing terrible things to your body. I heard this terrible story once of this young model who was desperate to lose more weight, and all she ate was cotton balls. Was she successful in losing weight? If you define, temporarily losing weight because she was starving, yes, she was successful. How I define success with weight is something that can be sustained for the rest of your life and that improves your health, not diminishes it. So we want to be very cautious about where we are getting our information from. We want to use critical thinking, engage that frontal lobe, consider the source. Anybody can do a YouTube video. Anybody can write a book. Anybody can write an article. I mean, there is we have a glut of information, and we really need to start sifting through that and going to the sources that are most trustworthy. Now, on that note, most healthcare professionals get little to no nutrition education. So it's really critically important that you be mindful about even the healthcare professionals and their recommendations. Now, doctors like Dr. Megan Mesher-Cox, she is lifestyle medicine board certified, as well as obesity medicine board certified. So is she a good healthcare professional to go to for nutrition advice? 100% she is. But now that you know that about her, you know that she's a good place to go. Ask people if they're sharing information, ask them to share their source. If they are sharing information, ask them to share their background. Somebody that has a background that is appropriate for that kind of advice and recommendations is not going to be put off by that. They're going to be proud to share with you all of the work they have done to educate themselves and fuel themselves with that good information. We really need to stop doing what everyone knows, the nefarious everyone and everything that they know. If we follow the crowd, you will see the same results that the crowds get, right? So the crowd right now in the United States is, about 70% of us are overweight or obese. So should we be listening to the crowd? Probably not. Think about things differently. Also, perspective. My perspective and your perspective are going to be different. Think about your situation and what is appropriate for you. You're going to hear me say over and over and over again today, customization. The plan should suit you, your personality, your strengths, your underlying conditions. It's all got to be customized to you, your lifestyle, your household situation. It's all got to be suited to you. Cookie cutter programs really don't work long-term for most people. Your expectations. So it really matters where you begin. So let me give you a non-nutrition example. Somebody starts wanting to run a marathon eventually. If they've never run a step in their life, they're not going to start running 5K tomorrow. They're going to start maybe trying to run a block. Whereas somebody else who's been running marathons their whole life will continue to do their regimen maybe up a little bit. So it matters where you begin. Are you starting off with a low carb diet? Are you starting off with keto? Are you starting off with vegan junk food? Where you start matters. The other thing is comparing yourself to other 100% plant-based eaters. 100% plant-based eaters can be eating very, very different things. So it's important, again, customize it to you and don't compare yourself. Really, that just leads to heartache and frustration. What you eat matters. So you're going to hear a lot about this today. Now, I say not just today, but for days. What do I mean by that? I mean by what you put in your mouth today, especially if it is highly processed, if it is refined sugar, these sorts of things, that is going to impact how you eat for several days. Because the more that you consume those extremely calorie dense foods, very salty, very sweet, whatever it is, you're going to be craving those foods. So it's really important to realize that if some people can do like a cheat meal or a cheat day and do okay, but others are going to have to take into consideration that might throw their whole week off. Now, does that mean you should never do that? No, but what it does mean is that you need to be prepared. This is the crux of what is absolutely wonderful about plant-based eating. Now, plant-based eating, I haven't described to you what that is today. If you're curious, I'll be happy to share that with you. But does that mean you have to be 100% plant-based? No, it doesn't. But the crux of the whole thing as it relates to weight loss is this little slide here. Calorie density versus nutrient density. So the highest nutrient foods tend to be the lowest in calorie density. So highest nutrients tend to be lower calorie density. There's a few high nutrient foods that are a little more calorie dense, and we call those out that, we just kind of pay attention to those. So things like dried fruit and nuts, those are the two big ones. Oil barely fills up our stomach at all, just a little tiny sliver. Cheese, again, a little bit more, but not so much. Meat, again, it's not engaging those stretch receptors. Rice, beans, and potatoes, those foods are the ones that not only fill our stomachs because they're lower calorie density, higher nutrient density, but the satiation of complex carbohydrate rich foods. So I'm talking about whole foods, whole intact foods. Those are the ones that make us feel full the longest. And so we want to make sure to include those as parts of our foods. Some of those foods have been villainized, and that's not supported by the science at all. So it's very, very interesting. Now, the fruits and veggies, you couldn't stuff yourself with too many fruits and veggies, pretty much. I mean, there are probably somebody out there that's tried, but those are so low calorie density, so high in fiber, so high in water that it's almost impossible to eat too many. And so if you want to fill yourself up without going over the top with calories, those last two are the sections that you should be paying attention to. I have a little example here at the bottom. 1 large order of fries or 4 baked potatoes. That is really the crux of calorie density. So the large order of fries, we already know it's not good for us in a variety of other ways, but we're talking just calories here. You can get 4 baked potatoes for 1 order of fries, and you eat those fries, and I guarantee the next day you're going to be wanting them again because of that high fat and that high salt, not to mention everything else they put in there. So here are just a few examples of that calorie versus nutrient densities. These one on the right, these healthful options here are full of fiber, full of micronutrients, really nourishing stuff, really, really good stuff. So I just want to do a little bit of a side-by-side here. Chicken, a cup. So a lot of people think chicken is a health food. It is not. A cup of chicken, 335 calories. 1 cup of mushrooms, 77 calories. I don't focus on calories a lot, but this is just an illustration of the difference between food choices. You know, people think I have to eat less, I have to eat less, I have to eat less, but that doesn't work most of the time. I don't know about you all, but most people that I have come across get very, very cranky when they're told to eat less. Eating less does not feel good. What we need to do is make better choices. So cheese, 1 cup of cheese, 51 grams of saturated fat. Whew, that's a lot of saturated fat. It's one of our worst saturated fat offenders, that cheese stuff. But look at this avocado, still luscious and creamy and rich and fantastic, but only 3.1 grams of saturated fat. And you're not going to eat a cup of avocado at a sitting. So, I mean, it's really negligible. Full of fiber, full of micronutrients, and really satiating and luscious and beautiful. Apple juice. Why did I include apple juice here? Because when you separate the fruit from its fiber, then what you have is something that's going to absorb very, very quickly into our body, and in a way that it really shouldn't. When you eat a whole apple, it digests completely differently than when you eat a cup of apple juice, partly because there's no fiber, but partly because there are several apples in that 1 cup of juice. So we're really looking at the fiber. We are so undernourished with that fiber in this country, especially. Most people are getting less than half of the minimum recommendation. And the more fiber that you consume, the more gets trapped and exits without being digested. Another trick about weight loss. So it gets digested appropriately, so it nourishes your body right, gives you the energy that you need in an appropriate way, but also helps to protect you in a lot of different ways by maintaining your weight, by maintaining lipids, by reducing blood pressure. All of these things are helped by consuming more fiber. So I'm going to call out one big bad offender here. So oils. Yes, there are better oils. Yes, there are worse oils. Eat better oils if you're going to eat oil. But let me just call out something about oil. Oil is a highly processed food. It's basically, even if you get it from its best source, say olives or avocados, you have extracted the pure fat from that, and all that fiber and the glorious colors, which represent, they're an indication of micronutrients, those beautiful colors. All of that is removed, and what is left is 100% fat. So it's very calorie dense. 1 tablespoon is 120 calories. So if you're cooking with oil, how many times are you using just a tablespoon? A cup of oil is 1,920 calories. So this is a very easy way to, check out some extra calories without diminishing the gloriousness of your food. If you're not sure how to cook without oil, reach out. There are lots of free videos on YouTube, and I have some myself. So just a couple of examples. Again, this is about making good choices. 120 calories for 1 tablespoon, measly tablespoon of oil, or 4 cups of broccoli, half an avocado, which is quite rich, right? A whole half of an avocado. 2 cups of blueberries, a slice and a half of Ezekiel sesame bread, a large banana or a baked potato. All of those instead of that little 1 tablespoon of oil. One of the things that I really love to focus on is taking what people already eat and just upgrading it. So you already know the foods, you already eat the foods that you like. So keep those foods, just start swapping out those ingredients. I've got some chocolate hummus here, yum. I've got some whole grain tortillas. I've got some banana nice cream over here. I was an ice cream fiend, so ice cream is a big part of my life. I just came up with a new recipe and shared it yesterday with my group. It's a cinnamon roll ice cream. Hit me up if you want that recipe. I'm just saying there are ways to really enjoy your food. And for me, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's not sustainable. You're not going to keep it up. So do I want you to eat rabbit food? I want you to eat your greens, absolutely. But I want you to eat foods that are absolutely luscious and glorious and delicious and fun to eat as well, because fun is sustainable. Watch out for your triggers. So I alluded to this a little bit earlier. The things that we eat can impact us later on. So there is a lot of evidence in the science about this, about what you eat now impacts how you eat later. Having a broth-based soup, for example, before your meal will usually you'll end up usually eating about 200 calories later without feeling any hungrier. So it's really important to think about the future when you're eating your food now, not just the distant future, the possibilities of disease, heart disease, and things like that, which is our #1 killer, and is entirely what they call a paper tiger. It's really not necessary to be in existence at all. Apart from congenital issues, I'm talking about lifestyle diseases. These, can be managed, reversed, prevented many times by eating a certain way. And that's why we do what we do, because people like Dr. Megan Mesher-Cox and I, we really, we just want to reduce suffering. We want people to be well. We want people to take back control of their health. We want them to succeed. That's why we do what we do. So avoiding those highly processed foods, especially calorie-dense foods, nutrient-poor foods, those are the kinds of foods that trigger a lot of people to overeat or to continue to eat those foods in an unhealthy pattern that feels uncontrollable. So after that, so let's say that you go to a birthday party and you have something that you wouldn't normally eat. There are strategies for recovering from that. You have to understand that each time you eat something that your body wasn't designed to, wasn't designed to be ideal, that is going to have an impact. And so it's not just in that moment that's the problem. It is how our bodies continue to crave it. It's how our bodies react after we have consumed it. So we have to make sure to shore our bodies up, to give our bodies what they need in order to heal. So there are lots of good ways to do that. I wish we had time to go into them today, but there are some really simple strategies that, if you have, for example, I'm very sensitive to sugar. And so if I accidentally get slipped some sugar, or intentionally, then I have strategies in my toolbox to help myself get back on track. So usually it only takes a few days, 2-3 days max, if you're normally eating really, really well. But let me help you by sharing some of those strategies with you. One of the things that is confusing to people is a hunger versus craving. So people will say things like, oh, I'm feeling a little hangry, right? You've heard this expression. And a lot of times that's not true hunger. That is actually a craving brought on by something that has hijacked our brain. So these foods or these food-like substances, these manufacturers are actually create these foods to light up certain centers of the brain that cause us to crave them. So there's something called intuitive eating, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, but it's really difficult to do while your brain is hijacked by those processed foods or those high SOS foods, the salt, oil, and added sweeteners. Know the difference between a hunger and a craving. If you're hungry, then a piece of celery or an apple will sound good. If you're only hungry for certain things, that's not hunger, that's a craving. Inflammation. So all of those foods that I was talking about that do damage, a lot of times they're creating inflammation in the body, and that creates swelling and fluid retention and all sorts of things. So if you're not addressing the healing that needs to happen in your body, that cooling of that inflammation, then that can be a hindrance to weight loss. So we have to address that, especially in the gut. I wish I had 5 hours just to share the gut influence on weight loss with you. But so it's really important to have a healthy gut. What do I mean by that? I mean the actual tissues of the gut, our actual digestive tract. We want to keep that healthy, eat those greens. But we also want to keep healthy our gut microbiota, those little microbes, those trillions of little buddies that live in symbiosis with us, because they are helping us. They are helping us. The good ones are. So we want to feed those good ones and starve the bad ones. So the good ones are creating essential nutrients. They are helping us with hormones. They're helping us with immunity. They're helping us with all sorts of things. So we want to keep that gut healthy. How do we do that? Eat the fiber-filled foods. Which foods are filled with fiber? Everything that grows from the ground. Anything else does not contain fiber. Steak has no fiber at all. Everything that grows from the ground that we can eat, that has fiber in it. Eat those foods. So let's just talk a little bit about your approach. Now, again, customization, you're going to hear me say this again and again. Match your style to your personality. Match your style, match your approach to your strengths, to your lifestyle, to your tastes, to everything you need it to match. And there are plenty. Let me just give you a quick set of examples here. Are you a detail-oriented person? Tracking, checklists, and meticulous planning might be right up your alley. Another person would find that extremely overwhelming and daunting and, make them feel a little queasy. So you have to match it to you. Probably a combination of things for most people. Are you creative? Great. Maybe you get CSA boxes where you don't know what you're getting. So that's just a box of veggies and fruits and things that comes to your door. And then you sometimes don't really know what's going to be in there, and you get to be creative with whatever shows up. Farmers markets, look for inspiration, look for things that look beautiful, check out other people's, plant-based recipes, get creative, feel creative, create your own recipes in the kitchen, experiment. I love the mad scientist routine in the kitchen. Are you a rebel? I am just a little. Make your current favorites better. Do it your own way. Step outside of the crowd and stand on your own and do it your own way. Are you lazy? Now, lazy is a funny word because we're all lazy. We're actually designed to be energy efficient, and that creates laziness, or what we call laziness. So I call it recognizing the greatness in others, or finding shortcuts. And I have plenty of shortcuts. So you can either buy pre-made meals, or you can watch some of my cooking classes, which are on my website for free, where I show you a lot of corners you can cut to, make delicious food that is also really good for your body. Now, these are just a few. There are infinite possibilities for your approach, and it should be exactly what works for you. Let's talk a little bit about holistic health, right? Nutrition is my jam, but we have to pay attention to all of the aspects of our well-being. Now, lifestyle medicine has, parsed it out here beautifully for us. So healthful eating, number one. Physical activity. Now, a lot of people think that, the more you exercise, the more it corrects these things that bad eating or poor choice eating, it corrects those, it fixes that. It really doesn't. Those foods are doing damage whether you exercise or not. But exercise is a critical piece of good health. It also helps us to maintain a healthy weight. You can't lose weight alone by physical activity. You can, but it is very, very difficult. It's really the nutrition that gets us where we want to get, and the physical activity supports us and protects our health. Stress management. Stress, I'm going to call out two here. Stress and sleep are critical to weight management. If you are not sleeping well, even though you feel like you're doing everything else right, that is something you're going to need to address. Sleep is huge for a variety of reasons. We tend to overeat when we haven't slept enough, which makes sense because our body is trying to make up for that loss of rest with excess calories. But it also affects hormones and all sorts of things, not to mention our mental well-being. So we need to make sure we are getting on average 7 to 9 hours of sleep. These other two here, maintaining good connections, this is really important for good health. Now, whether that means that you have, a small group of very, very close friends or a large group of beautiful friends, it's entirely what supports you. You need to have a good support system, places you can go for to be shored up, to be assisted, to be helped, and to help others, because that feels really good too. And of course, avoid those risky substances. You already know that. I'm not going to get into it. Oops, sorry, I don't know why I did that. Keys to success. What we really want is to know why we're doing this. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? If you don't have deep, meaningful, evocative things that make you feel deep emotions, that give you visualizations of, strong deterrents or strong positive motivators, if we don't know why we're doing this, we're not likely to keep it up. Have those powerful whys, write them down, because once we take them out of here, they go from intangible, swirling, changing things to real tangible things. So write them down and refer to them as often as you need to. They will evolve and change over your life. That's perfectly normal. They should do that. Use your strengths. As I said, play to your strengths. Use your strengths. You know what you're good at. Think about things you've done in the past where you were successful. What were you successful at? Even if it wasn't related to health or weight loss or whatever. I was really successful when I managed this group of people because of this, because this is a strength of mine. Use it. Use it in a way that strengthens your goals and strengthens your processes to get to your goals. Track your progress. Now that can mean different things for different people, but I would recommend two things. If you are struggling, if you feel like you're doing everything right, but you're still struggling, writing things down for at least a couple of days will really bring the reality of what is happening right here, right? And so you can't get away from the reality when you write these things down. The other thing I would highly recommend that you track are your biomarkers. Now you saw me use that word right off the bat there, biomarkers. Those are things like your weight, that's one of them, but things like your cholesterol, your blood pressure, blood sugar, all of those things are also measures of good health. So when we track those and when we eat well, when we transition to eating better, those things can improve dramatically. So be really, really careful if you're on medication, because you can become over-medicated really quickly. So make sure you're working with your healthcare professional. If you're transitioning quickly, especially to a plant-based diet or transitioning to anything else that's a big change in your routine. Create automaticity. What do I mean by that? I mean, think about brushing your teeth. Do you have to wrestle with yourself to brush your teeth in the morning? No, it is an automatic thing. You do it because you know you have to. You do it because you've been doing it your whole life. It's just something you do. And that's what we want to create with our healthy eating habits, as well as all of those other lifestyle habits on that 6-pie wheel. So how do we create automaticity? Practice. That's really the best way. Just keep practicing it until that's your new automatic. Don't forget to make a plan. You gotta make a plan. You gotta set smart goals, be specific, be realistic, and believe that you can do it. I'm gonna give you a couple of other keys. Support. Now, the reason I call this out specifically is because the science is pretty strong in showing that the people that have support with their health goals, whether that be weight loss or anything else, they're much more likely to succeed. So find support. We do a free plant chat every Saturday, mid-morning, and it is just a place where we get a little education, do a little sharing, we give tips and tricks, recipes, we share our challenges, we talk out issues, we do some troubleshooting. Find your support. It's there, but maybe you have it in your circles as well. Mindset. Mindset is everything. You have to get this right first. Get your mind right, your body will follow. Your body follows the mind. This controls everything. Your body follows the mind. If you really believe that you cannot do something, then you cannot. That's the heartbreaking piece. But on the flip side, if you think you can, if you believe that you can, you absolutely can. It's a beautiful thing. So just realize that you can do this. You absolutely can. Think about all the other people that you have seen do it before. This is another great reason for a support group. I have a mixture of people in my group, some that have been doing it for ages and some people that are just starting out and everything in between. Some people that are struggling, some people that are doing fantastic. You get to see that it is possible and really how it's possible, which is really my specialty. I'm all about practical application. I love the science. I'm a huge science nerd, and I've spent thousands upon thousands of hours making sure that my information is solidly science-based. And I do my best to keep myself out of the equation. We're humans, so we're all biased, but I do my best to only relay evidence-based, science-based fact. And that's really, I believe, what makes me different than a lot of others that are advising people about weight loss in particular. So think about how it can be done. If you can't, find somebody that can show you how to do it. Find a group of people that can help you along the way. Once you can see it happening, once you see it in your mind, once you can see it happening and you believe it, you can do it. Absolutely. And it will become effortless. Habit change requires a little discomfort, but as we practice, we create automaticity, and that becomes our new automatic. And so just practice. Find those techniques, fill up that toolbox with all of the tools that you need in order to succeed, and then go ahead and practice. What would you prefer? The minor discomfort of growth or the pain of staying the same? Whenever I see this quote, I think, where am I going to be a year from now? If I am not markedly better than where I am now, I'm going to be severely disappointed in myself. So think about that. Think about where you want to be. Think about continuing to grow. Whether or not you work on your health this year, the year is going to pass. It's going to pass. The time is going to pass anyway. So just get it done. Get it done. What I highly recommend is that you make it simple, fun, and delicious, because when you make it fun, when you make it enjoyable, that is sustainable. So that is it. And I did my time almost perfectly. Very proud of myself. Now I will open it up to questions.
Jay, if I could, a couple of questions that came through our chat. The first is the connection between weight loss and sleep. I know you touched on it actually shortly after the question came in. Is there something more that you want to touch on for that?
Yeah, so sleep is critically important for brain health. Brain health, remember, this runs everything. So the body follows the brain. It is critically important for detoxifying the brain, for setting memories. Sorry, apparently my dog has something to say about that. So it's really critically important to keep this brain healthy. Also, it impacts our hormones. Not getting enough sleep. It impacts how we feel mentally, how we feel physically. Are we likely to make better choices if we're tired? Are we likely to make better choices about what we eat, about whether we exercise? It is all related. Now, there's some chemical things that happen as well. It is all critically important. If you are struggling with sleep, please find a way to address it. There's something called sleep hygiene go ahead and Google that. That's okay to Google because there's plenty of good stuff out there. But mainly what it's talking about is winding down after the end of the day, turning off screens, keeping screens and things out of the bedroom, finding ways to really calm yourself at the end of the day, reducing stress, figuring out ways to reduce that stress, because those two are quite tightly entwined. If you're eating late in the day, that can have an impact on your sleep. So there are a lot of things that we can do to improve your sleep quality. I know it's something that I've struggled with as well. My issue is this thing does not shut off, but there are lots of things that we can do to help impact that as well. Reach out to your healthcare professional. They will be able to give you lots and lots of advice. There also could be something physical that's going on that's keeping you from getting deep sleep, things like breathing difficulties and stuff like that. So we really want to make sure that we're addressing underlying issues as well as maintaining really good, healthy habits.
Okay, thanks so much, Jay. You know what, the other thing too, and I'll be honest, one of the biggest things when I'm counseling people on weight in the office, if we're not seeing the results that we want to see, it comes back to sleep. And really, most of the time, that comes back to screen time in the evenings because that's become such a habit in the culture. So sorry for the background noise here, you all. So one thing I wanted to ask too, if you could talk about, Jay, as far as calories at certain times of the day, a calorie in the morning versus calorie in the afternoon, evening.
Absolutely. Actually, this is a really interesting subject to me. So again, remember what I said about customization? We really need to do what works for you. Some people are just plain not hungry in the morning, and that's perfectly okay. I'm never going to tell you to eat when you're not hungry. That is a way to set up, poor, contrary habits to good health, unless you're having trouble with under eating, and that's something separate. Okay. If you're trying to release excess weight, you shouldn't be eating when you're not hungry. That being said, the science does show us that the best time to eat, the bulk of our calories, is at the beginning of the day. It makes sense, right? We want to fuel our bodies for the work we are about to do, not the work that we did, right? We want to fuel our bodies for the work we're about to do. And so, you've heard the expression, eat breakfast like a queen, lunch like a princess, and dinner like a pauper, right? So get your foods in the best quality and the higher calorie density foods first thing in the day so that you're properly fueled for the rest of the day. The other thing is stopping eating several hours before bedtime is a really good idea. Our digestion slows when we sleep. And so that's part of the reason we have trouble sleeping well when we are full of food. And we're also fueling our body a lot of times with our largest meal for sleep instead of activity. So think about it in terms of fueling your body for the activity you're about to do.
Thank you, Jay. I wanted to add something in too. This is about diet and lifestyle, nutrition and lifestyle medicine, right? A lot of the questions that I get, and I know Jay does as well, are about the medications, all these medications out on the market for weight loss. And the thing that is so very interesting to me is that every single one of the medications that's out on the market, they treat hormone levels and the hormone shifts that come with obesity. And every single one of those medications, the hormones that they affect are that we can affect them the exact same way through diet. And it comes back to fiber. So every single one. So I'm saying that incorrect. There's one, the stimulant. There's nothing we can do. It's going to be the same as the stimulant, unless we give a stimulant as well, right, through caffeine or so. But all of the other weight loss substances, the way that it affects it and the way that it affects our hormone levels, there are foods that will do the same thing without adding in that extra chemical.
100%. If we think about it, hormones are kind of like the generals of our bodies, right? They're regulating all sorts of things. Insulin is a hormone. Remember, there are hormones related to our gender, to our sex. So there are all of these hormones that are regulating different things in our bodies. And, one of the best ways to do that, to maintain good hormone levels, is to keep that gut healthy and to feed our bodies the things that our bodies are designed to eat. which are all those fiber-filled foods. Say that 10 times real quick. So yes, 100%. That's a really, really good point. And the thyroid, of course, there are lots of ways that our hormones, if our body is unwell, if we have underlying things going on, that can throw us out of whack in terms of all of our habits and our health.
So it's 12:45 right now. Jay, is there anything more you want to say? Or we could sign off and then you and I can stay on if people want to stay and ask some questions just to us individually.
So sure. Yeah, let's give everyone a couple of minutes and I can talk a little bit more. You know, as I mentioned, as I was going through, there's so much more that I would have loved to have shared. There are people out there that come to the questions that I get most often are, I can't get off the sugar, or, you know, I really can't get away from my soda, or I really can't get away from this, I really can't get away from that. So how do we address those situations? And there are great strategies. There are whole food, plant-based foods that can help you to, as sort of like a little crutch to get past that, whatever it is. You know, food can actually be addictive, like literally addictive. And there are certain foods, especially the foods that our bodies are not designed to eat, highly processed, animal-based foods, all that kind of thing, that can sort of mess with our hunger signals and mess with our ability to make good decisions. So there are a couple of tools to stick in that toolbox that I'll give you right now, since we have a couple of extra minutes. So first of all, if it's not in your house, it's harder for you to eat. Don't buy the stuff. Don't, well, my child or my husband or whatever, make them go out and get it. Don't bring that stuff into your home, and it will be much harder for you to give in, right? If it's not there, you know, much less likely you're going to go and eat it. The other thing is if you're having difficulty with sugar, remember our bodies love fruit. We can see in color for a reason, because all of those glorious colors are filled with micronutrients that our bodies need to be nourished, to be energized, and to heal. And so we're very attracted to those rainbow of colors. So fruit, with its fiber and water intact, is a beautiful way to help to get past sugar cravings. There are a few fruits that that I use if I'm struggling, if I've been accidentally poisoned with sugar, that really help me. Things like dates and things like bananas. If you're eating whole food fruits, remember dates are a little bit dry, so we want to watch that one and not overdo it. But if you're trying to get past a sugar craving, I'm going to say give yourself a little leniency for a few days so you can get past it, so you can clear that out of your system. The more you clear these foods out of your system, the more that your system won't crave them, and the more that your taste buds will change. Now, some people might find, especially if you're transitioning from a very high SOS diet, so, or the SAD diet, the standard American diet, or the high SOSs like salt, oil, and added sweeteners, our taste buds actually become deadened when we eat these foods. But the good news is that taste buds renew. Give it a couple of weeks and you're going to discover that romaine lettuce actually does have a flavor again. So give your body a chance to adjust. Will you have a few unpleasant days? Yeah, but is it worth it? 100%. I think now would be a good time to go ahead and release everyone that has to go. I want to thank you so, so much for being here. Dr. Cox and I will hang out for a little bit longer if somebody wants to ask a question in a smaller group. I find that there's always one or two of those, and you're welcome to stay and we can do a little bit of a smaller group Q&A. I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. Remember that this is with disease prevention and reversal. My business is Plant-Based for Life. Dr. Megan Mesher-Cox has her own practice, but we also together have done disease prevention and reversal. That's the prevdoc.com. And we do a monthly webinar every first Wednesday of the month at noon. They're always free and we typically alternate. And so go ahead and check out prevdoc.com and see what we have coming up, and see if you're interested in joining us. If you're on the mailing list, you'll automatically get the information. If you're not on the mailing list, go to prevdoc.com and get signed up so that you can get some more, tips and tricks and details about our free events.
And please, if anyone has anything they're dying to hear about, we would love to hear from you so we can make
Yes.
sure to address that in particular, like specific topics for further webinars.
Please, because we already know the things that we like to talk about, but it's most important that we are bringing the information that you need. Absolutely.
Oh, I was just saying, have a wonderful Wednesday, and thank you all for joining us. We'll see you hopefully a month from now at our next, or 28 days from now. And we'll hang on here for a few minutes for anyone that wants to stay on.
And everybody else, have a really fantastic rest of your day. I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing so that I can go ahead and pop in. That's an excellent one. Thank you. We'll definitely do one on lowering blood sugar. That's a critical one that both of us actually really like talking about, because the information out there is really, the general knowledge on that one is way off. And so that's definitely one we'll talk about. So the key there is saturated fat and good quality carbohydrates. But we will definitely talk about that one in detail in the near future. All right. Thank you for sharing my website. I appreciate it. I'm always open for a free 30-minute consult the first time I meet with anyone. I'm happy to figure out what your situation is and figure out if there's something I can do to help or refer you to somebody that would be appropriate. I always stay in my dance circle. So that's really, really critically important to me. So if I can help you, I will. And I have plenty of resources for free. So definitely check out my website, recipes and videos and all sorts of stuff. And check out prevdoc.com. We have quite a few videos on there as well. We did a health summit with myself and 4 doctors, including Dr. Megan Mesher-Cox. And so all of our demonstrations and presentations are on that website. So if you want, to load up yourself with information, go and check out prevdoc.com. Any other thoughts or questions? These were excellent questions. Really, really good job. I'm just checking out.
Thank you so much, Jay. You did such a good job at consolidating it. It made it nice and short.
My problem is usually I go too long, but we got it good this time. Oh, thank you so much. Any advice on how to lower HDL?
Are we perhaps LDL?
That's interesting. So yes, the question is okay. So LDL. Okay, good. Okay, because HDL can actually get too high, but it's very, very, very rare. No worries, no worries. So LDL, one of the biggest things that we need to do is up our fiber. The fiber is really key. And then to avoid the 2 big ones, saturated fat and cholesterol, right? If we're not consuming the cholesterol, that's a good start. That's a very good start. All plant foods do not contain any cholesterol, but there are certain plant foods that contain, higher saturated fats. And so if we're trying to reduce our LDL, then we're going to want to pay attention to those things. Let me give you a couple of examples. So coconut products tend to be very high in saturated fat, especially coconut oils. So we want to definitely stay away from any kind of tropical oil. The palm oil, which is found in a lot of processed foods, and coconut oil, which had a bit of a glow up a while back, but we've discovered is really, really, really not good for you. And so those 2 are big. The other thing is just kind of staying away from oils in general. If you're going to consume your fats, choose the best forms. And so what are the best forms? The whole forms. So avocado oil is better than other kinds of oil, but so much better to get your fat from the source in its whole form, in the form of the avocado. But just kind of keep those, anything that contains saturated fat a little bit low. Things like nuts do, but there are certain kinds of fats that you can increase as well that will help. Things like foods that are high in omega-3 fatty acids. We don't want to go too far. There's this cautionary tale in that, people think some is good, so more is better. That's not usually the case. So some is good, but the right amount is right. So if you're going to include things that are high in omega-3, like your ground flaxseed, ground chia seed, things like that, those are my 2 favorite sources. And keep lower some of the other high saturated fat nuts and seeds, at least until you get that LDL into a good range.
That sounds so great. And usually with my patients, usually we'll go over the three biggest things, all of them nutrition based. Number one being increased fiber, just like Jay said, but can't say enough about that. I mean, the foods that are rich in fiber are plant foods, right? Fiber is only found in plant foods. Cholesterol is only found in animal foods. Plus, they add it into processed foods. So by definition, if you're having foods that are high in fiber, you're getting the high fiber level, which will decrease cholesterol, but you're also not getting the cholesterol via the foods. So it's kind of double whammy as far as helping. So number one is increased fiber. Number two is not having the cholesterol foods. Number three is not having foods with the saturated fats. And then kind of a number four, although we don't always get into it, is to make sure we're not getting added sugars via the diet. So there's another question here. I wonder, Jay, if you want me to take this about is there a connection between older age, nutrition, and hair loss?
Absolutely. I definitely have some stuff to say about it, but go for it.
Well, as far as older age, the first question I ask people if they're aging and they're experiencing hair loss is, did your parents experience hair loss, specifically your mom? And because it goes in our genetics, that does play a role for sure. Nutrition-wise, we see it if there is some vitamin deficiencies. We want to make sure the iron level is high enough. We want to make sure some of the vitamin levels are high. But really, by far and away, most of the time, it goes with genetics. So go right ahead, Jay.
The only other thing I was going to add is that sometimes hair loss can be related to weight loss. So if you dramatically drop your weight, there's this thing called deadfall. So our hair falls out all the time. That's normal. But sometimes it'll fall out in larger clumps called deadfall if we dramatically reduce our weight. If you're eating the nutrients that you should be eating, though, your hair should grow normally after that deadfall. If you're still having hair loss issues, of course, it can be genetic and it might be related to a nutrient imbalance, as Dr. Cox said.
And I'm sorry, I missed the other very common thing that we see is the hair loss that happens about 3 months after a stressful event. So it's about 100 days. So that's just about 3 months after a stressful event, we see significant hair loss. And if there's chronic stress, then the hair loss continues. So just to put that out there. There's another question here, Jay, regarding algae. Do you want to take this one?
Yes. So we want to be really careful about our source of algae. Spirulina is a hard no. That is hepatotoxic and neurotoxic. So that's hepato is related to your liver and neuro is related to your neurology, your brain and your nerves. So we really want to stay away from spirulina. It does have some purported benefits, but the drawbacks are not worth it. As far as chlorella goes, in general, when it comes to supplements, my recommendation is get your nutrients through food. That's our priority number one. We want to address any underlying issues. Now, if we're eating whole foods that are algae, which you can do, or sea vegetables, this sort of thing, you can definitely get your omegas, boost your omega-3 levels that way. Also, beans and greens are excellent, have a really lovely source of omega-3 fatty acids. We say flax and chia because those are kind of like, you can do 2 scoops or a tablespoon or 2 a day, and it's measurable and you're getting those consistently. So that's an easy way to get it in, right? But as far as supplements go, we want to be very, very careful. Supplements are basically unregulated medicine. And so nobody's watching over these people, and it's a real problem. Supplements tend to have things in them that they don't say that they'll have. Some supplements don't have what they say that they do have. It's a little bit sketchy and a little scary. So if you can get your nourishment in your food, that is definitely going to be priority one. Now, occasionally, people need to supplement. So what we do in those situations, and everyone should be considering supplementing B12. That is just kind of an across the board thing because our soil and water is so depleted of the bacteria that create B12. And so most people will need to B12 at some point. Get your levels, and that's what I'm going to say about all levels. Get those levels checked. Supplement if you need to. One of these things that a lot of people do is to say, I'm covering my bases, or I'm trying to fill in the gaps. Supplements typically don't work that way. You should supplement if you need to in the appropriate amount for you specifically. So make sure, again, that care is customized to you and your needs. Wakame is great. We just got to watch out for that sodium, but Wakame is fantastic. Yeah, definitely a good source.
And so it's 1 o'clock. I just want to comment this last question answer that came in. The biggest challenge is cooking 2 separate dinners, one plant-based for me and one standard American diet for my husband. Not sure what my question is, but just wanted to throw that out. Although I'm joyfully cooking plant-based, my partner, although he's happy for me, is barely tolerating my new program. We hear this all the time, right, Jay? And it's one of those things. Maybe you have some more tips for people. It's hard, right? If people aren't ready to come along on, even though you want them to live longer with you, if they're not ready for that. So.
Definitely some strategies that we like to employ is to do, because sides can be very easily made helpful and plant-based by doing a few simple swaps. If that person must have their meat, then that may be something that you add one more thing, or you make them cook it. That's why I like to do it. But your situation is your situation. The thing that I really want to say about this is, the beginning of anything is a challenge. But the best thing that you can do to influence others, especially those that are close to you, is to be an excellent example. And so for a time, it might be a little bit of a pain, but if your partner is seeing you succeed, is seeing your numbers improve, is seeing, whatever your weight loss goals are, whatever your health goals are, if they are seeing you achieve those with ease by transitioning to plant-based food, that is the best testimony for them coming closer and closer. And often, so many times over and over again, I see this where they're very resistant in the beginning, but they're watching you. And eventually they go, okay, maybe I'll do one meatless meal. Okay, that lasagna was pretty good. You can continue to make that every week, or whatever it is, right? Get them involved if you can. Some people have, one set cook, and that's just the way it goes with that dynamic. But if you can get them involved, then try. Otherwise, just be an awesome example.
And I'm kind of the tough love thought process, right? So you might do it for a while, and then after a while, I've noticed a lot of people, it seems to work with their spouses, although I don't know if I know it well enough to recommend it to someone else. But what seems to work is at some point they say, okay, I'm done. I don't want you to die early. I'm not doing that for you anymore. Go ahead and do it yourself, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much all for joining us, and please reach out to us if we can help at all. And Jay has some great programs, and thank you all for your kind comments. Yeah, we'll see you next month.
Have a great rest of your day, guys. Bye.